right? You know how when they always talk about the good old days? This is them, right? I have 3 older kids that all played something collegiately. My daughter played college basketball. My son played baseball and basketball in college. My youngest daughter ran track and field. And every year, I got to parent them a little different, right? I could learn from my mistakes when the next one was coming up. But those kids, they only get one shot at being 10 or 8. And it's such a fun time looking at them when their equipment bags are bigger than they are, right? And in anything that you've ever done, would you do something a little bit different if you got to do it over again? Yeah, your hand went up really quick, right? Yeah. 2 people in the stands, people with their hands raised and liars, right? Because we'd all do something a little bit different. And I'm lucky I get to do it again. I have a 14-year-old son that's going to be a varsity baseball player at Covina High School. And sports has changed since my oldest son, who's 32, played, and my youngest son, who's 14, started playing. In the middle of that is when Positive Coaching Alliance came along. And so I learned a little bit as well. And I'm going to share just a few of those things today. Royce mentioned how a lot of baseball players, they look just like our kids, right? The stages of development for athletics and talent in general are really interesting, right? Some kids bloom early, some kids bloom late. I coached a couple of kids on my oldest son's Little League teams that their parents were convinced they were the next Roger Clemens and Mike Piazza. By the time they were seniors, you know, one was singing in a band, the other was working on cars. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they weren't playing baseball anymore. On that very same team, I had a little guy that was just like everybody else. He wasn't bigger, faster, stronger. He was a good kid. I always drafted him when I had a chance. He was a couple years younger than the others. And when he was 12, he didn't make our league's all-star team, right? Nowadays, if a kid doesn't make a 12-year-old all-star team, everybody goes berserk, right? But he kept playing. And he was a good high school player. Not great. Didn't make all area or anything exciting. Didn't get a college scholarship. Walked on at Loyola Marymount. Had a good career. On the second day of the draft, after his senior year at Loyola Marymount, he gets drafted. His dad calls me. He's all excited. And he says, but they usually draft the people that they know are players on the first day, and they draft their teammates on the second day. So we didn't expect a whole lot. We expected him to, bounce around a little bit. Single A, double A, triple A. Anyway, I still have his first Major League base hit on my DVR for the California Angels. And he got injured and finished his career actually in the Dodger organization. His name was Chris Pettit. Still works baseball around here, but he was just another little guy. And when I went and saw him play minor league baseball at Rancho Cucamonga, talked to him in the dugout, I said, how did you progress? What was the trick, right? Because it wasn't evident early. And he said, my coaches always made it fun to learn how it was going to be done at the next level. So there's a couple things there, right? Fun and learning. And my family always supported me and were at every game. My dad and my grandpa were there for me all the time. And those are the things that we really need to help our kids get a little bit better. It's that right now, it's that romantic stage where they love it. They probably got up early and got ready. They put on their cleats at 8 o'clock in the morning to walk around in the kitchen for a 5 o'clock game, right? They're excited about it. They sleep with their glove. And then coaches and parents all of a sudden get real excited about kids that have a little bit of talent, and they start pushing them towards that technical stage where they worry more about doing it right than having fun. And they're in a hurry to put in all these hours, and all I know is I'm not going to put in a lot of hours into anything unless I'm having a good time doing it, right? So we got to manage that transition and make sure that they always have the love of the game as they continue to move up the ladder. Eventually they get to be a mature athlete that maybe plays in high school, maybe further, but who knows? They're going to get the best out of sports the longer they stay around. We kind of have some principles and philosophy that we think helps that process along. We go around and talk to coaches about the 2 goals that they have through sports. We call our coaches double goal coaches to remind them they got 2 things in mind. They're trying to win, right? They're striving to win and prepare their kids to do that, but they need to teach life lessons to the kids along the way. Those lessons that are going to last long beyond, the times that they play. Then this is where you guys come in, right? As parents, we all have to make sure that we're supporting the coach and creating a really good coach-parent partnership so that the kids absorb the lessons that the coach is trying to teach. For example, the coach might be trying to teach commitment and work ethic. He wants kids to come to practice and work hard. There might be consequences if kids don't, right? Maybe they don't play, maybe they don't earn the position that they want. And we as parents have to support the coach in doing that, otherwise that lesson doesn't get taught and gets undermined. It's hard for coaches to teach sportsmanship and respect for authority if parents are in the bleachers yelling at umpires and questioning coaches' decisions. It undermines that lesson. And we're trying to teach teamwork and accountability. And if we're trying to hold kids accountable for their performance and we're making excuses on the way back to the car about bad umpire calls and other people making errors and poor coaching decisions, it undermines that particular player's accountability in their performance. And we want to make sure the kids strive for that success all the time, right? And live up to those standards. So, that coach-parent partnership and the relationship between the double goal coach and the second goal parent is crucial in making sure that our kids get the best out of sports that they possibly can, on and off the field, because that's what we're looking for, better athletes and better people at the end of the day. Some principles that we think are important to focus on. It's easy as a parent to look at the scoreboard and base the day on that result, right? We want to take the focus off of that a little bit and focus on three things. We want to focus on their effort. Are they trying to do their best? When we talk about life lessons, is there a better life lesson than to try to do your best in everything you do? Right? So that's the first lesson. The E in an acronym we use that we call the ELM tree, ELM. Effort, learning. How are your kids learning? Are they getting better? Are they improving? That's what's important. Not whether they won that day, whether they're learning. And no matter how much they work and no matter how much they learn, they're going to make mistakes. And if I'm worried about the scoreboard and only the scoreboard, mistakes are bad. They help you lose, right? I let a ball go through my legs or run scores. That's bad if I'm only worried about the scoreboard. But if I'm worried about getting better, right, at mastering baseball, getting excellent, then I could use that as a learning moment, right? A teachable moment. Why did the ball go through my legs? Right? Did I not get down? Did I not get in front? Was I not in stance? Right? There's all sorts of things that I can learn from that mistake if I look at it as a method of mastery instead of worrying about the scoreboard. So that's what we're after. Effort, learning, and mistake management. Raise your hand if your kids ever look at you when they make a mistake. Oh yeah, boy, a lot of hands went up today, right? What do you think they're looking for? Somebody holler out an answer. Approval, reassurance, right? They want to know that you still believe in them. When I ask athletes around the country why, even high school athletes, why do you look at mom and dad? They think they let you down. They want to please you, right? So they look for that reassurance. They want to know that you still love them. They have a ride home, right? They get to eat tonight and all that, right? That's what they're looking for. So we need to give them a little bit of that. But we can't holler it through the chain link fence. It's okay, mijo, I love you. I keep trying. You'll get the next one, right? We can't holler that. We can't give them tips. We certainly can't yell at them about the mistake. So we suggest you come up with a mistake ritual, right? Just a sign or a symbol, right? Third base coaches do, right? They'll do everything to help kids know whether to bunt or steal, right? You come up with a sign. We talk about flushing mistakes, right? You look at me. I tell you, that's okay, flush it, right? Imagine that's down the drain, it's gone, forget about it, right? Remember the part that might teach you, forget the part that's going to create the fear of making the next mistake, right? So we want to flush mistakes. So maybe you say flush it, maybe you say brush it off, no sweat, right? Maybe you just say I love you, right? There's probably something that you do, right? If you throw your hat, probably bad, right? You give them that look, might be bad. But you give them a 2 thumbs up, right? Then it's all good, as long as you share that with them. I'd say, hey, honey, when you look at me and I give you 2 thumbs up, that means that, I love you, it was a great play, and I want you to just get ready for another one. And here's what happens. They're going to make a mistake, and they're going to look at you, and you're going to say, flush it. Then down the line, they're going to make another mistake, and they're going to look at you, and you say, flush it. Eventually, they're going to know that when they look at you, it's okay. They're going to get ready for the next play. So you're going to wean them from the need to look. And someday you're going to realize ball's going to go through their legs, they're going to throw it into right field, and they're not going to look, and they're just going to keep playing. And that's what we're trying to get them to do by helping them flush mistakes, right? That will fill their emotional tank. There's all sorts of research that says kids need, at the end of the year, to have 5 times as many positive memories about what they're involved in than negative memories, criticisms, corrections, setbacks, failures, that kind of stuff, right? 5 to 1. So all of the things that are great memories go into that ratio. Do you think they're getting great memories today?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a whole bunch of them, right? So that's some money in the bank. They're going to associate a good time with baseball. And they're going to get corrected a lot today, right? And in our kids' mind, sometimes that's a negative. So we're trying to get to 5 to 1. Some days are bad. There's a lot of criticisms and corrections and failures. So as parents, there's nothing we can do about that. Those already happen on the field. So we need to make up for it to get to that 5 to 1 ratio. That's the time we need to go get ice cream, go get pizza, have a good time, fix that ratio a little bit. I used to have what I called the driveway rule. After a game, I wouldn't bring up the topic of the sport unless they did. Once I pulled out of the driveway of wherever we played or practiced. When you survey college athletes and ask them the worst part of their sports experience, they say the drive home with mom and dad. Right? That post-game analysis. So I tried not to bring it up. Now, if they did, just like a court of law, I could cross-examine, and it was open season, right? They opened the door. But if they didn't want to talk about it, they weren't listening to anything I was saying anyway, right? It was not a teachable moment at all. So we got to go on their emotional schedule, okay? I sat in the parking lot a long time some days before I pulled out of the driveway because I had a little bit extra to say, but I always left it up to them, and they almost always talked about it because they knew it was safe, right? So we want to create these 5 to 1 positive to negative memory ratio. There was a day my youngest son struck out twice, once looking. He made a really good play in the field, but didn't remember that one, right? You remember the negative stuff. So the life of a sports parent, right? Tell me if you think this is normal. I go through the drive-thru to pick up dinner while my wife goes home to have him start his homework after a game, right? That's a typical weeknight, routine. So I'm going through the drive-thru, and my phone buzzes, and I'm getting a text from my wife, and and I can look at it because I'm in the drive-thru, and it says, "Tyler's in the back seat crying. He thinks he played a horrible game." And I felt bad for a second, and then I just said, "That just means he cares," right? That's a good thing, kind of. So I order my food, and my phone buzzes again. And the text says, "He says to leave me alone." Right, parents, moms? Is that a good thing for a kid to say, "Leave me alone"? So I said, well, remember his emotional schedule, right? He'll talk when he's ready. I get my food, and the phone buzzes again, and in capital letters it says, "What about my emotional schedule?" Right? We want to fix it. We hate to see them struggle. We hate to see them sad. But you know what? Those are good times, right? Those are teachable moments when we look back. Embrace the struggle a little bit, right? That's the grind that everybody talks about now, right? It shouldn't be easy. It should be a little bit tough. And when we can help them get through those tough times, they're going to develop the grit and resilience they need to overcome things later in life, off the field, right? So I go home, he takes his dinner, and he mopes in his bedroom. And our team mom used to take a whole bunch of photos and upload them to Facebook by the end of the day. So about an hour later, he comes out, and he says, "Dad, can I look at the pictures?" So I pull up Facebook, and we start to look at pictures, and I swear, picture number 22, all of a sudden he's smiling. Because every picture had him and a friend with a toothless grin, right? He was 7, 8, right? Arms around each other in the dugout, goofy smiles. Every swing looks like it's getting ready to be a home run to them, right? So he saw 22 great memories. And that balanced the negative feelings, right? So all of these things that you can do as a parent, right? Pictures, pizza parties, help kids develop relationships. Those kind of things go into that 5-to-1 ratio and fills their emotional tank. And while you're doing it, respect the sport, right? Honor the game. When people talk about sportsmanship, a lot of times they tell you the things that you shouldn't do. I'm going to tell you 5 things that we think you should do. It's an acronym, ROOTS, R-O-O-T-S. We think you should respect the rules. We want to teach kids to respect the rules, respect laws. They're going to learn that through sports. It's hard to do that when kids know that adults are faking birth certificates in areas of residence so they can play in a particular place. We might not be doing it, but they know somebody that's doing it. How are we going to respect following the rules? Because we're trying to win. Don't bend the rules. Respect their opponents. A lot of times people think that you need to drum up some sort of hatred for your opponent in order to play a great game, right? They're your rival. Who played games against their brothers or sisters when they were kids? Sports games, board games. Did you try to win those?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right? Like maybe sometimes harder than if you played somebody you didn't know. So I'd argue that if you respect and love someone, maybe you play harder and better. Respect your opponents. Respect officials. Again, how can we teach authority if we don't teach respect for officials? Respect their teammates. Don't do anything to let your teammates down on or off the field. That means come to practice, right? It's hard for a coach to work on bunt coverage, first and third situation, rundowns, cutoffs, when kids aren't there. They're letting their teammates down when they don't show up. Not only are they missing an opportunity to get better, letting other people down. And they're missing that opportunity to get better, maybe because they don't respect themselves quite so much, right? That's the S in ROOTS. Respect for self. Set really high standards of performance and behavior and live up to those all the time. If we can teach kids that through sports, then they're going to develop into the kind of people when we send them off, right? They're going to do their best regardless of what everybody else around them is doing. They're going to behave their best regardless of what their peers are doing. And that's what we want at the end of the day. They're going to learn that through this laboratory of life that we're calling sports. Nelson Mandela was giving away an award, and he said, sports speaks to youth in a language they understand, right? We could have left them here and I could try to tell them the lessons and they'll remember, 1 or 2 things I said, right? But put on a uniform and give them a ball and a bat and keep score, and all of a sudden they're going to learn all sorts of lessons they're going to use for the rest of their life, right? During this time, be their biggest fan and help them through that so that they stay involved and get those lessons as often as they can, right? On game day, tell them how much you love them, how much you're excited to see them play, to do their best and to have fun. And then during the game, cheer like crazy. For both teams, maybe even. Right? Nothing better than sitting next to somebody in the stands and not knowing what team they're cheering for. Praise the other team too.
You got to put everything in perspective.
And keep it in mind that you never know the person next to you and whose mom or dad they might be. Right? They might be your team mom next year. Right? So be careful of how we talk about other people too. Let's take care of the stands and take back the bleachers a little bit. And after the game, win or lose, try your best not to allow the result affect our behavior and how we feel about our kids. It's easy to be grumpy. And when we're grumpy after a game, they think for some reason that's because of their performance. And we don't want to let that happen as much as possible, right? So let's try to be upbeat and tell them you had fun watching them. You loved them. Let's go eat. Right? And that's what they're going to get out of sports. That support is going to keep them involved as long as they can. And they're going to get the best out of sports as they possibly can. Talked about my oldest daughter. When she was done with college, she went on and got her doctorate in physical therapy. And so my payoff, as I was paying tuition bills, right, was going to be to go pick her up at the hospital and hear them say, paging Dr. Lokar. I was going to be proud, right? To hear my name with doctor in front of it. Right before she graduated, she got married. So now, paging Dr. Thomas, I got nothing out of that. I said, honey, can you hyphenate just for a year? But there was no doing that. So she's Dr. Thomas now. But on graduation day, she gave me this gift. And I want you to understand what we're doing for our kids. I said, honey, how did you make it through such a tough program? Right? I mean, you're my kid, right? How did you do that? And she said it was really hard, 12-hour days, basement labs, cadavers, all that stuff. And I never would have made it if it wasn't for shooting slumps and losing streaks. Right? Batting slumps and losing streaks. The hard stuff. Right? The things that they struggle with, when we help them get over it, they develop the grit and resilience to overcome things later. Those are the lessons that they're going to get out of sports, much more than whether they can catch and throw, bunt or hit, and run bases. I want us all to make sure that we get that out of our kids, because they're going to develop into the ethical leaders and the people that we need desperately in our country in the future. And we're building that through sports today, right? I want to thank you guys for the time. I hope you got a couple of tips. Have a great time watching them. When I saw my youngest son stand next to my oldest son, it always reminded me how fast the time goes, right? Before you know it, the ball's going to stop bouncing, and we're going to have some of those great memories. So let's create them now, okay? Thank you guys very much for your attention.